Welcome to Lift, where we lift leaders, business entrepreneurs, and communities. I'm your host, Sarah Layson, and today I have a very close friend. How many years have we been friends, Holly?
30.
He's probably much better at math than me. 30 years of friendship here. But Holly is an incredible leader, mom. She is also an attorney, and she is probably one of the most resilient, kind, incredible humans that I know. Holly, I don't even think I have told you this. I was putting together this podcast, and I'm not going to cry at the very beginning. I don't even want to look at you because I don't want to cry, but Holly has been through a lot of challenges and a lot of things in your life that you just do it with such grace. And I'm getting emotional already, but I say that because even during some of your most difficult times, when you know that I've been going through some very difficult times, you always find a way to reach out to those that you care about. And you do it I know you do it purposefully. I honestly don't know how you have time because you do so many different things. And I don't think I've ever told you like how much that means to me. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And I know that means so much to so many others, but all around boss is what Holly is. I want you to know, I know we've been friends for 30 years. Love for you to start from the beginning. You know, what values were instilled in you at a young age? I know your family is really important to you, but kind of start from the very beginning. What set the foundation for your success and your journey as a leader?
Sure. I mean, definitely my parents. I had the best parents, pretty much an idyllic, growing up situation. Growing up in Bartlett, about a stone's throw away from you, I could walk to your house.
There's a lot of bike riding and rollerblading
That's right.
involved.
Oh my gosh, the rollerblades. Yes. My parents were wonderful. I'm the oldest of three. My sister Haley, my brother Philip, we're all 2 years apart, and my parents really did a great job instilling the values of hard work, kindness, and keeping commitments. That was something that was really important to them that we learned at a young age, and those, kind of core tenets have carried me through my whole life.
And I'm smiling as you said that. You said hard work, commitment. What was the other one?
Caring, kindness.
Caring and kindness. I know your siblings, and you're right. I mean, those are all values that y'all all embody, and I have a feeling you're obviously instilling that in your kids as well, right?
I certainly hope so.
Obviously, your family and your parents. What'd your parents do? What do they do?
My mom was a physical therapist by trade. Mm-hmm. She ultimately was the director of all rehab services, so she was a bit of a boss herself.
Yeah, leader.
Yes, and my dad was in sales. He was a drug rep.
So funny story with your mom, and this is just who you are as well. When my mom had the stroke, I remember you were like one of the first people that called and was like, hey, my mom is, director of all these different rehabilitation facilities, and you really honestly provided me a lot of resources when I had no clue. Until you go through something like that that's that traumatic. And I mean, I didn't even know, as much about physical therapists at that time or what they did. But when you go through, obviously my mom had a stroke. When you go through that, and all of a sudden you have friends that have parents that have backgrounds and wealths of knowledge, it truly is a gift. So, you were like one of the first people that called me when I was looking for rehab facilities for her, trying to get her out of the hospital. So you graduated from the University of Tennessee, diehard University of Tennessee fan.
For better or worse.
All day in orange. What did you envision for your career, and what did success look like to you at that stage in your life? So what did you envision?
At 21, what was I, 21?
21. The world was at our feet, and we had no clue where we were going.
Right. And that's, you sort of summed it up in a nutshell. I really had no clue where I was going, and I think I had a little bit of a Pollyanna idea of what was going to happen, and that some job would just drop in my lap. I really had absolutely no direction, which was so interesting because I was such a driven student, and obviously made good grades and worked hard, and then I got out of college and thought, well, where's my job? As if someone would hand it to me.
We thought it was just going to fall in our lap.
Right, and it didn't.
And we got a degree.
Yes. I think at that time I would have defined success, though, as sort of having what I grew up with. I wanted to work. My mother worked. So having a good job and making a lot of money, that would have been my version of success at that time.
Tell me a little bit about that journey. So you graduate from college, and do you stay in Tennessee? Tell everybody kind of how that journey started and what brought you back to Memphis.
Sure. I graduated from college and came home to Memphis. I was dating my now husband at the time. He was living and working in Memphis, and so I came back here with no real goal and no job on the horizon. So that was, kind of a trying time for us, and I really quickly started working at a law firm just as a runner, running errands, filing things in court, things like that, just to kind of bide my time to figure out what I wanted to do. And I think what that led to was, I think I'll just go back to school. That'll give me a few more years to figure out what I'm going to do. So I went to law school without really thinking about it a lot, honestly, sort of a whim of a decision, but ultimately it worked out.
Yeah, but your degree, political science?
It was political science, yeah. I had a major in political science and minor in business at Tennessee, so it sort of obviously led to that. Those were just my interests at the time, and I had quite a few electives that sort of led to that degree.
We all?
Yeah, that's right. The good old days.
I was like, what's another elective that I could add here?
Right. So those sort of led to that major more than it was an intentional decision to get me to law school, but it certainly helped.
Did you envision yourself as an attorney or no? In school? Was that ever on your radar?
I think it was certainly on my radar at some points during my life. Growing up, my grandfather was a judge in a small town in West Tennessee. We called him Daddy Judge. That was our grandfather name for my grandfather, and he was the coolest man. And I remember growing up going to his, to his courthouse and getting to go in the chambers. And,
that's awesome.
He was there. He would wear long johns underneath his robes to keep from sweating through his robes. I mean, this was I'm not that old. This was not that long ago.
So now every time I see somebody, a judge in robes, I'm wondering what they're wearing under it.
I don't think that's what's under there.
Long johns.
But it's definitely seared into my memory, Daddy Judge and his long johns with his robes over the top. So obviously, that was in my, family.
Model.
Yeah, sure. And he was definitely a role model for me. And just as the years went by, I didn't really think too terribly much about it, but it was something that I would consider. I like to read. I like to study. Those things go hand in hand with.
Holly she's always been an avid reader.
Yes.
And you were always there was a group of y'all always in the AP classes. Yes. And I was like, one day I might get in there, probably not. I talk too much. So, political science, what was your thoughts with that?
Political science was a really fun major, and it was a writing intensive major, which is something that's what I like to do.
Yeah.
So we didn't have multiple choice exams. We had free-form handwritten exams, and that, those electives that I had sort of made me think I would much rather do this than a business major, for example. So I shifted my business to my minor and decided this was the move for me. This was going to make me successful and get me the good grades I wanted.
Well, and I know that we've gone down that journey, and working at the law firm probably obviously set the foundation for you to want to go take the LSAT and get the bar and all of that. And I also know, a lot of us, I put on here, the path from where we start to where we hope to go is really a straight line.
Absolutely.
And when you think back on all those years of your early in your career, were there any seasons that challenged you, stretched you, or ultimately shaped who you are today?
Absolutely. When I graduated from law school, I found myself even more lost than I felt when I graduated from college. It was a little bit of a shock for me, yes, because I still didn't feel really drawn to practicing law. Mm-hmm. I look back and I recognize now that I was probably deeply depressed. I did not realize it at the time. But it was certainly a hard time for me, and I did not know what my next move was going to be, and that came with some sort of shame, right? Because everyone knew, oh, well, she's graduated from law school,
and you're always so accomplished,
right? And I just had no,
very driven.
I had no direction, and so, again, a friend got me into some interview with someone, and ultimately got me a job. My first job practicing law was for a divorce lawyer, a family lawyer. Her name is Leanne Dobson, and she's wonderful. She taught me how to practice. I didn't know how to do a single thing when I started working for her. Everything I am as far as a lawyer is because of that foundation that she gave me. So what a great, first job, right? But it was tough, and that's the that practice is really hard.
Yeah,
And
a lot of emotions.
sure, and I still did not find
But
myself,
you cannot carry home.
I did not find myself loving it, as you can imagine. So again, having to pivot from that, knowing I can't do this forever. So definitely had some challenges that was a reckoning for me. That was sort of the first time I faced any semblance of failure or adversity. And to be honest, I was not ready for it.
Why would you call that failure? I'm just curious.
I think it was just a failure in my mind because it wasn't success. And,
Gotcha.
My biggest fear in life, like most people, was failure.
Especially for overachievers.
Sure. I had not faced a great deal of adversity, so it was a little bit of a rude awakening for me. Obviously a life lesson I needed at the time, but one that was not particularly welcome.
So where did you go from there? Like where? Because I mean, you have kind of had your hands on different types of law practices, right?
Sure.
If that's even, I don't even know for the attorneys out there. I have no clue if that's
right.
Correct. But you've practiced different types of law and you've been in different types of environments.
I have. So after I was working with Leanne doing family law, divorce work, a friend of mine who I'd previously practiced with, my dear friend Amber Hitchcock, she was working at AutoZone in the store development group. So a real estate attorney for AutoZone. And I called her from the courthouse one day and said, I can't do this anymore. I'll do anything. Whatever you guys have, like, I'm your girl. And not long after that, there was an opening in that department at AutoZone. And, because of her friendship, she kind of stuck her neck out there for me. And our boss, Wink Morgan, who was a wonderful man, was able to look at what my experience was and say, I'll take a chance. Let's see if you can do real estate. And I just was so lucky at that job to have such a supportive boss in Wink, but also Amber and my friend Kevin as well. They kind of taught me the ropes, and it was fun to do. We were young in our practice, and it was such a great opportunity.
As you're saying this, I'm going back in my mind. I'm laughing because I remember when you got that job, and to me, I was like, my friend is an attorney at AutoZone. Didn't know, at all what you were doing. But I mean, to me, from the outside in, AutoZone is a big company.
Sure.
I'm like, she is a boss at AutoZone, and here you are, and you're like entry level. That's what how you're describing it. But to all of us that are, on the outside of that, we were also very proud of you because I mean it seemed like it was a big girl job. Because how old were we? Like, it was like.
Yes, Carter was 2, so I was
late 20s.
No, I was probably 31.
Okay, yeah. Which for anybody that's listening, most people really figure out what they're going to be and do and what their career or their vocation is, not in their 20s. Most people. I mean, for me, it was my 30s. A lot of us it was.
Sure.
And I think for us being overachievers, I think we were all very hard on ourselves.
Absolutely.
Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And just back to the earlier point when you asked why I felt like it was failure for me not to know what I was doing. That's exactly why. I just was such an achiever and so, goal-oriented, than to not have a goal really, or not, know what I wanted to do. My next step just felt so hard.
Yeah. So we were at AutoZone for how long?
I was there for 5 years, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what was the next step for you?
I took a quick detour for 2 years for another real estate company and came back to AutoZone. I really loved that job, and it's a great company. And we were doing big girl things. I just was doing them without a lot of experience. So when you say someone, taking a chance on me, giving me an opportunity, that was absolutely something that I benefited from. Someone really giving me an opportunity when I'm not sure I was truly deserving of it from just a substantive standpoint.
Yeah, but you're brilliant enough to ask the questions. I mean, I knew that about you. And a lot of our friend group was like, we all were offered a lot of pretty, I would say, higher level roles, and still are. And sometimes I'm like, why are you offering me this? I'm just not figuring.
Who let us be the grown-ups?
I still see us, we're 15.
Yes.
So now, what type of law do you practice now?
So I still do a little bit of real estate. I work for International Paper. I still do a little bit of real estate, but I'm also the legal support for, we call it the West Group, of the packaging solutions. So I mostly support people who work at box plants.
Okay.
And my day looks different every single day. So sometimes I'm doing real estate development and opening new box plants or moving from one place to another, warehouse, things like that. Or sometimes I'm telling them what they need to do with respect to potential antitrust issues, or when someone is injured, they're calling me. When it's really, every day is different, and that's really fun.
Yeah.
But again, that was another stretch, which is something that I think you really have to be willing to do if you want to be successful, right?
Yeah.
Is to do things that scare you.
Yeah. So, looking back, you graduate from University of Tennessee, and then, you find yourself, I guess, interning or whatever, working at a smaller law firm, and then now at International Paper. Like, what all of you learned? That's quite the journey.
It has been a great journey.
What did you learn, like good and bad, from that journey? Like, what changed you?
Yeah, I think it's really the same kind of core tenets that my parents had for us when we were young have truly carried me through all of that, right? Yeah. If you work hard, if you show up, if you honor your commitments, things will happen for you. If you treat people with kindness and respect, you show up as your authentic self and operate with integrity, there's nothing you can't do or weather. There's no storm that you can't weather when it comes to, if I didn't have those anchoring me, I would have truly been untethered in those places where I felt lost, So.
Which I think are some values that some people are missing.
Sure.
Like, I 100%, in my life, if I am kind and committed and all of those things, people will open doors for you that you don't even think you're prepared to walk through. Exactly what you're saying. It's just because they see the value of the commitment and the hard work, and and that you're a good human.
Right.
And it's not rocket science.
That's right.
Do what you say you're going to do, right? Show up,
right?
Work hard, and be a good human. That's
it really is that simple.
That's the equation.
It really is that simple.
All right. So one of the pillars of Lift is lifting people, and I know I shared it at the beginning of the podcast. Just the more I really reflected a lot on these questions, because people and you giving, your heart and soul to so many different people, right? And I think that's one pillar that, with the podcast that I talk about often, and you really embody that. Who are some people that, I know you talked about some that invested and believed in you and took a chance on you, but how did those relationships shape your journey? Like, if you didn't have those people, where do you think you would be?
Honestly, they have been everything. Obviously I have done some work, for myself, but if I didn't have those relationships, then I would not have known about some of these jobs. I would not have been considered for some of these positions or opportunities. And it's just so important to invest in relationships. I wholeheartedly believe that. Yeah. There is not a move that I can look back to in my career journey or in my life in general that did not have a relationship tied to it. And I think, honestly, again, back to the way we were raised and being trustworthy and authentic, like, that's what you expect out of a true friendship and relationship. And that is ultimately what has helped me be so successful, is to have these people who were willing to stick their neck on the line for me.
Yeah. For somebody, and I've got my thoughts on this, and this is not on these cards, but for somebody that might be a little bit shyer or a little bit more reserved, what would you recommend they do to go meet or just get involved? Like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, so, because I was actually having a conversation with Pruitt this morning. He was like, I'm shy, and I'm like, all right, well, we've got to figure out what we can do to still be in relationship,
sure,
and create friends. Like, what would you say is some things that someone could do if they're listening? They're
sure.
not outgoing.
Yeah, one fun fact about me that even my closest friends probably don't know is that I am actually an introvert, so I can understand that. Now, I know how to behave, and I know how to, socialize, and that is fun for me, but it does exhaust me to a certain extent. So I can certainly sympathize with someone who doesn't want to kind of do those, those things all the time. But it's really important. Sometimes you just have to do things you don't want to do.
Yeah.
It's important to have connections, and without those, it will be incredibly difficult to realize your ambitions.
Yeah. Well, and I talked to Bert about this too. I'm like, a team is a big thing, right? And so who can you go serve with Usually, typically, if you're serving others
Sure.
and you're in a team format of, in whatever service oriented project you're doing,
Sure.
that is a great way for for people that are not naturally inclined to go just meet a bunch of people,
Sure.
to go start getting into a relationship. I think right now more than ever, community is everything. Relationships are everything. And I was just saying this, and I've talked about it on the podcast, AI will not replace relationships.
No.
And I think a lot of people tend to, because of fear or not naturally being an extrovert, silo themselves, which I think also can cause a lot of mental illness because you're alone.
Absolutely. I think that there's been a lot of that too. After COVID, we all worked from home, and hey, that's fun too. I like to work from home too, but really finding a way to be a part of your community, whether it's, your friends that you're friends with in your regular life, or whether it is people that you work with and your colleagues, it's important to continue to have those connections because it's so easy to fall into that life of solitude. And if you have ambitions and you want to see your career grow, you have to have connection. You absolutely have to. I just think that that's really something that a lot of younger employees who sort of were born into the work from home
and social media, and just stuck behind their computers,
sure,
or really their phones. I would say computer because I'm a little bit older, but
sure,
yeah, I think that is something that I for any younger entrepreneur or any of them that I mentor, I'm like, the best thing you could do is treat somebody to coffee and any CEO would love to meet with, a young adult, to be able to pour into the next generation, right? And just ask questions and get into a relationship and build a network.
Right, absolutely. There's so many of us who recognize that we need to lift as we rise.
Yep.
You just have to be there to be lifted.
I love that. We need to lift when we rise. I absolutely love that. Let's talk about the relationships you built and the people who've invested in you throughout your career. I know we touched on that a little bit, but what has struck me about you, and I said this at the very beginning, is that you never stop investing in people, and you just kind of said that. It's important to lift people when they rise, even while facing a really hard season with breast cancer.
Sure.
And I remember, I know you well enough, and I'm like, what's the terms of engagement around what I discussed or what I didn't?
Sure.
I mean, there was a group of us that were like, this is how we shall or shall not engage.
Right.
Because it's important to understand that. I don't think people,
No.
when someone's going through a traumatic situation or have had a loss, or, and I know that was one of the questions I'll talk about in a minute, it's important I know we want to put our worries and anxieties out there because it looks like care, and it can also feel very heavy to the person sitting on the other side. But all that to say is you would literally just started, and I mean, you still showed up at our client appreciation event. I mean, I'm like, you would just show up. I mean, and you still did stuff for me when my dad was in the hospital so many different times, and my mom. What was instilled in you? Where do you get that mindset from?
I think we have been so fortunate. We've had such a great group of friends. I've always said we're special, that we've had this pretty big group of friends that's been together for a long time, and that's important to me. And the older we get, the more I recognize that it's important. It's so valuable. And truly, when I was going through that breast cancer treatment, so many people showed up for me that it's all I want in life is to be able to pay it forward or repay that, because it was so beautiful to see how many people wanted to care for me.
Yeah.
And so if I can ever make anyone feel that good, I want to.
You naturally, because you've always done this your whole life, are you really strategic and purposeful? My brain is a mess, right? Especially right now in this season of life. And I have to put things on calendars. I have to carve out, even Brett, our dear friend Brett, I'm like,
sure,
it's coffee meeting time. And he's like, what does that mean? I'm like, we actually have to set up a time so we could meet.
Right.
Is that naturally ingrained in you? Hey, I feel that Sarah is going through a hard time, or are you purposeful about it? Because you've done this your entire life.
I do try to be purposeful about it. It comes naturally to me in that, that's how I was raised. I saw my parents, behave this way, but, showing up for their friends and, things like that. But there is an effort behind it. I think just as people cross my mind during the day, I try to make an effort to say, oh, Sarah's going through a hard time. She came across my mind. Let me text her now while I'm thinking about her. Or, whoever it is, hey, thinking about you, hope your niece or nephew went well. How's your mom? Whatever. That kind of thing is, I do it on purpose. And I do sort of feel guilty, actually, when I haven't done it in a while. So it is something that I really try to be disciplined about because it's important to me.
I think because you've been disciplined about it and purposeful about it, then you've almost, unconsciously created a habit around it.
Yeah.
Do you wear, this is not on any of these cards, but I'm just curious, because you and I are a lot alike in this, because I think we worry about a lot of people.
Yes.
How do you filter that? Because that can get super heavy. So how do you, what is the process for you to filter that? I know obviously reaching out and texting them.
Sure.
But there's a lot of, I would say, executive women in leadership have that quality. But we also have to figure out ways to filter through it because it can get super heavy.
Sure. You can only do what you can do in a day.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that a lot of people like us struggle with is finding balance. It's the best trick once you kind of have that balance. But
for 2 minutes.
Sure, but it's fleeting.
It
That's
feels
right.
Great, doesn't it?
It's fleeting for sure. You just can only do what you can do, and so if your day looks like you're a great mom that day, great. If your day looks like you did a really good job at work, great. If your day looks like you were a great friend, great. All of those are successes, and so. That, I'm not sure this is really exactly the question you asked, but, kind of talking about balance and work-life balance, it's not going to look like you thought it would. That's the trick.
I call every bucket in your life, because, for me, I look at it as I've got my spiritual life, I have a family, my friends, financial, marriage. Every bucket is not going to be a 10.
Right.
It's just not possible.
Right.
And I think when more high-level leaders can understand that, there is some grace, I know, to be given. I would say also, too, you talk a lot about, relationships and network and surrounding yourself. When you're around other people that are dealing with the same, you're very purposeful about bringing, women together that are quite powerful. We just did I was going to wear my fancy blazer that I bought.
So
Shout out. Who is this?
Her name's Lauren Draffin. It's Beg and Borrow.
Beg and Borrow. Women and men clothing as well. But it's custom clothing. But long story short, you're really purposeful about that too. I think if leaders would take a moment to really find who's going through and walking through some similar seasons and putting that group together, that's really helpful.
Sure.
Because all of us can then share, hey, I would say for me, share that, hey, I feel like I'm failing in this area, and it's nice to have somebody to pick you up on the other side that's no, I'm going through that as well.
Absolutely. That's, again, back to the point that you made earlier about, community is everything. It really is. If you are siloed to yourself and you feel like you're failing because you have your hand in so many different things, it's really isolating, and it's hard. It's hard to pull yourself out of that. So even to have other people who are going through the same phases of life as you, whether it's your friends or your colleagues, and also, to the point about having grace, I think what I've been able to accomplish with the relationships I've made at work is, back to the point of showing up, is that I've offered quite a bit of grace when I'm having a hard morning, I'll get there when I get there. Yeah. Or, I've got to go do this with my friend Sarah this afternoon, or whatever. I have a lot of grace because I have shown up and kept my commitments. Right.
You're consistent in the commitment, and then there's trust there.
Right.
Right. And then you're able then to ask for grace.
Right. And that's the real secret when it comes to balance is it's the ebb and flow. It's not, I'm perfect at everything every day. That's not balance.
How do you structure your day? Just curious. Like a work day. Because it's going to be it sounds like there's a lot of things that ebb and flow at work.
I definitely try to block off time on my calendar for certain things. If I have something I know I want to take care of, I will block off time on my calendar. It doesn't always happen because things come up, but I think that's really important. It helps me prioritize my day and to know this is what you're doing today at work. So that blocking off your calendar, if you're especially in a corporate setting, but even I think in your life, if you hold yourself to a certain, I'm doing this at 10 o'clock tomorrow. That's what I'm doing. That discipline can really serve you well.
It really, too, I love that you just brought this up because thought about this too, that discipline, and it builds confidence.
Sure.
Because you're doing what you said you were going to do, right?
Yes.
And so you're honoring your commitment, which then builds confidence and then progress and momentum and all those things.
Sure. There's nothing more satisfying than crossing something off your list.
Right.
Just do it.
I want to talk about your journey through breast cancer, but I've got one other quick question for you, because I'm just naturally curious. You and I are high achievers.
Yes.
Did people ever ask you if enough is enough? Like, when is enough going to be enough for you? Do you ever get that question? I get that question a lot.
You know, I don't know that it's necessarily that question, but I do think some people wonder, what will make you satisfied? And I would say to that, if someone did ask me that, I'm not unsatisfied, but I always want to be better.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether better looks like more money or a promotion or just learning a new skill or trade, or I always want to be my best self, and your best self cannot be stagnant.
Yeah.
So,
well, a lot of us have a drive towards, I would say, just creating excellence in our lives.
Yeah.
Nothing is ever perfect, but it's funny because you're right. Everybody in our group that has at a young age.
Yeah.
We've all been on a path to this, how can we excel at life, right? And I don't think, you're right, I don't think you ever stop that, right? And that's a habit too that we created.
Right.
It's been what? It's been 2 years.
It's 2 years.
2 years.
2 years.
I want to be able to help. I really like in this section. I was really I want to help people that are going through cancer, whatever, they might have been recently diagnosed, or they're currently in that season, or coming out into remission. And I also would love for you to get, from your perspective, friends and family and loved ones that want to be able to support, like, what are ways for us to to show up and communicate and not put our fears, worries, and anxiety, on that individual. But before we go there, can you kind of just talk about the journey of, when you realized that, this is the next season for you, a very difficult season?
First of all, I take a bath almost every day.
Yeah.
And I was sitting in the bath and I just grazed my right breast and felt something there. It was small and close to the surface. I didn't really think anything of it. I have no history of breast cancer in my family, so I really wasn't scared, but like a responsible adult.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I made an appointment with my OBGYN and got a mammogram. And
How quick did they get you in?
It was a couple of weeks. It wasn't bad.
But do you think a lot of people would graze their breasts and not go?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm surprised I didn't do that. And I'm so grateful that I didn't. But I don't know what made me not ignore it. But I thankfully, went and saw. And they quickly referred me to West Cancer Center for, another mammogram, but then an ultrasound to really see what was going on in there. And I still wasn't really nervous. I just thought, it's probably nothing. It'll be fine. And while I was there for the ultrasound, they said, can you stay for a biopsy today? And I thought, something's probably not right. I knew that was the day where I really knew this is something.
Did you call anybody during that time?
Well, it's interesting because I had told my sister, of course, like, hey, we Marco Polo, which is, a video app. I don't know how many people use it, but I use it, and we were Marco
Polo.
Polo.
I didn't even know that was still around.
I know. That's how I keep connected.
It works for y'all.
Yeah, so anyway, we Marco Polo'd, and I was like, hey, I'm going to get, and I was there for much longer time than I thought I was going to be. And so I told her, and she was sort of the first person I told because she already knew that I was going. So, I knew that day something's not right. And a couple of days later, I got my results. They called.
So how, what's going through your mind? Like 1,000 different things, I'm assuming. And how did you filter that?
Okay, actually, normally I would overthink something like this. I would think, I did not react at all how I thought I would. The day of all of the, ultrasound and biopsy, they kept sort of intimating that I already knew this. Like, oh, well, let's just see what kind it is. And I was like, what kind of what? No one has said I had cancer yet.
Somebody go ahead.
Right, we've missed a step.
Let's diagnose me so that then we can discuss the next stage.
But everyone was so clinical about it, and it just sort of, I don't want to say that it made me at ease, but I just didn't panic, And I got the phone call at my office. One of my paralegals at the time was in my office. I asked her to step out. So then, of course, they know before even my family know, because she's there. She's sitting right there.
Right there.
So they called, and even then I thought, okay, well, this is fine. And I walked down to my boss's office and I said, I need to tell you something right now because I feel very calm. And I do not like to show emotion in public. That is not my ministry.
Which is why we had rules of engagement.
That's right. Everyone knows this about me. So I told her, I said, I'm going to tell you something. I don't want you to freak out, And she starts to tear up, and I'm like, no, I need you to lock it up, whatever. So anyway, I guess that's a good segue to the point that you had about other people and how they react to news like this. I was so nervous to tell my friends and family. My hands were sweating driving to my parents' house. You would have thought I was like a teenager who had a party over the weekend or something. Like, I was petrified to tell them.
Yeah.
Because I knew they would be scared for me, and I just didn't want what you're describing. I didn't want that emotional burden.
Yep.
They didn't do that. They were wonderful. They were calm and supportive and warm and caring. And of course they were, because that's who they are. And similarly, I sent a couple of group texts out and said, here's what's going on. Here's what I know. Don't freak out. I'm calm. It was basically like, there's no easy way to say it. Here's what's going on. And I think
follow up with 5,000 questions.
Everyone was kind of like, how could you say that to me?
Yeah.
But really, everyone was so wonderful about meeting me where I was. Yeah. And I think that just goes back to, number one, how special our group of friends is. And obviously my family as well. We know each other, and people knew that I wanted to be treated normally, even without me having to say that. Yeah. So while I never felt like people weren't thinking about me, they were checking on me, setting up secret Amazon gift, lists for me, sending me text messages and cards and things like that. The people were always checking in and making me feel supported and loved, but no one ever made me feel burdened by that. I never felt burdened by someone's worry for me, which was such a gift, and it was such a beautiful part of the journey, honestly.
I mean, that was like one of the first things I thought about, because it was like everybody knew how to respond. Yeah. And you responded. It's funny. You say that you go down all these analytical paths. You never show that on the outside, right? Ever. Everybody's just like, she knows where she's going, and we might as well follow her because she knows where she's going. And you always seem so calm doing it. Like goes back to AutoZone. I'm like, she is going to crush this new role, and you're of course like, it's entry level to you, and I'm thinking, man, she's killing it. Who became your greatest source of strength during this season, and what did they do that made the biggest difference for you?
I think the answer is pretty obvious based on the conversation that we've been having. My family and friends it was just invaluable, that constant support. It's just my soft place to land no matter what hard time I'm going through. And this was no different. I think, everybody was probably scared, but it was just such a wonderful, it was almost like a Zen time in my life. As crazy as everything was, I just felt at peace. I just felt calm about it, and I don't really know how to describe it, and I don't know what to attribute that to other than the fact that I felt so supported.
So when you were going, in for treatments and all of that, like, were you at peace with all of that too? Did you feel like, it sounds like it was there was a prescription, there was a path, there was a plan. Right. And then you were like, all right, this is going to get me on the other side. Right.
Actually, one of my first appointments, I had, of course, read everything that they sent home. Yeah. Because that's who I am. And I went to my appointment, and my oncologist, who is brilliant and beautiful, and I'm obsessed with her, Dr. Ben. She's wonderful. She was talking to me and saying, and I'm nodding my head, and she said, "Oh, are you in healthcare?" And I said, "No, God, no, I'm a lawyer."
But I read a lot, and I write a lot.
I said, "I'm actually very squeamish. I don't, I'm easily grossed out." Yeah. And she's, she thought that was funny and changed her treatment, actually, so that I didn't have to have a port, actually, because she knew I was squeamish, and she knew that would make me squeamish, and it absolutely would have.
Awesome.
So advocate for yourself.
Yes.
But I guess where I was going with that was that, I felt confident in the plan,
and the people.
And the people who were, they knew what they were doing. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to attack it. It's going to be fine. I believed them. Yeah. So I was really very calm. When I was going through treatment, obviously, it's not the best, but it was not terrible. Yeah. My sister was with me every time I went to have chemo. My sister was with me. Thank goodness. I quite literally would not have one hair on my head without her. Yeah. Because she helped me do this cold cap treatment, which was actually awful. But
Yeah.
but she was there for me, and we laughed our way through, what was an otherwise unpleasant time.
Yeah.
So.
It's interesting, though. It was like one of the most difficult, unpleasant times, and you said it was the most peaceful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was sort of like it gave you the perspective, or gave me the perspective of like nothing really matters. Like this doesn't matter. Everything is fine. Whatever I would normally be worried about, I just wasn't.
I mean, I think anybody that's gone through any type of like really hard thing will tell you is like some of the lowest of the low moment. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's peaceful. It's silent when the world is typically. I think you get really good at deciphering what's really important in life and what's not really fast.
Sure. It's like being in the eye of the hurricane. It's quiet there. You know that there's all of this going around, but it was not bad.
Because it's almost like you have to relinquish. Well, you do have to relinquish control.
I thought I would have a harder time doing that.
And you did not.
No,
I mean, because you did, and you navigated it. I mean, from outside looking in, I would say you were definitely at peace. Which, I mean, I think for all of us was like, oh, she's got this. I mean, it was like it then instills on the other side like, oh, she's got this.
Yeah.
You shared with me that the season that the cancer journey season, but you've shared that it's been a reset for you in your life. How has that reshaped your priorities?
Yeah, I mean, just back to the point of, I'm not at the point where nothing matters anymore, right? So I've passed the eye of the hurricane now, but I definitely don't associate as much worry to things that I normally would. I just don't worry as much as I used to. I think everything's going to be fine for the most part. Things will work out, and I'm not usually that Pollyanna about things, but it's just kind of reset my level of care about things that don't really matter. It's also, of course, made me so thankful for all of my family and friends, and how absolutely how fortunate I am to have such a wonderful safety net there. And that's really all that matters at the end of the day. When I'm old and gray, I won't be thinking, gosh, I was such a great lawyer.
I don't see that. I'm like, well, I mean, I say that you're not, you're never that way though, because you're so humble.
Yeah.
Like, I think you're right though. I mean, you look back and it's like, it's the moments with the people that you love that matter.
Sure.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right.
And then you do get to a point where you also realize they're at in our life and our journey, we really don't have a whole lot of control.
Right.
And there is a lot of peace in that.
Right. Control is an illusion, and once you let go of that...
I'm still working on that. But I'm not really good at that. So and I'm just curious, I had this question here. Did that change your definition of success, or do you still have the same definition of success?
I think it did. Not necessarily change my definition of success. I'm
Couldn't
still...
say that word for some reason either.
Yeah, I just it didn't want to come out. It got stuck in there. But, ultimately I still have the same ambitions career-wise. But I think, when we talk about the buckets, I just think that my life success, it's heavier on the relationship bucket. Obviously, I still want to have a good and meaningful and fun career, but that's not everything. And so I think it just helped shift my priorities a little bit more than my definition of success.
Well, and I would say too, the priorities and time, like I always say this, I'm like, time is our greatest asset.
Sure.
And it's worth its weight in gold. And I don't think a lot of people realize it until you go through something really hard. But your priorities shifted, but your time and where you spend your time shifted, right? It's easier probably for you to not feel like you're going to stay at the office until 7, 8 o'clock, right? Because you're missing your greatest valuable things over here, right? Yes. I think at the younger stage of career, I didn't understand that.
Well, and when you're younger and when your kids are younger, you think that this will last forever.
I just remember which don't say this to a mom with a newborn. The days are long and the years are short when she's gotten 2 hours of sleep. Right. I mean, I looked so just a hot mess. And I remember this sweet couple, and I just looked at him and I was like, not right now. Like, I'm no sleep. So yes, the days are long and the years are short. Yes. And it is so true.
Yeah,
and time is fleeting, right?
It is.
And just don't say that to somebody with a newborn. No. Okay.
Well, I mean, you were really going through it anyway.
I remember we were at a Longhorn and I was like, what did you say? Which just caught me on a bad day. All right. So there may be someone listening today who has received a diagnosis. What would you like? What would be the advice you would give to that person that
sure
is sitting in that chair in that moment?
I think I would say let people love you. People just want to help you. And if this person is anything like I am, I'm reluctant to accept help or ask for help. Mm-hmm. But that's how people show that they care about you. And again, it was just such a wonderful and just really beautiful piece of the journey there was to recognize how many people cared about me and who wanted to show me that, and so I think that really is something that can help carry you if you can let down those walls.
That is so good for the person on the other side too, because I'm not good at letting people love me.
Yeah.
And I'm not good at like receiving compliments, right?
Sure.
But when you let somebody, when somebody is wanting to love you, mm-hmm. right? They're emotionally processing those feelings too, and when there's a wall up, then they don't get to get that out either, right? Like when you really think about that, I'm like, you just said something to me. It's like, I'm like, well, because I've thought about it. Because if I'm wanting to love somebody and share, in that joy, pain, all the feelings,
right.
If I can't get to that person in that relationship, it's like it's almost a mental block for me that I can't process.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so good. Like, let people love you. If you are because I think the natural thing for most people to do if you've gotten a diagnosis or you're going through trauma is you just wall up and because you want to put on your armor.
Right.
Right. And you don't want anybody to pierce through because you don't want anybody to see the vulnerability or the fear or any of those things, right?
Yeah.
And I think you and I naturally tend to do that.
Absolutely.
But you let people love you really well. And therefore you did and we all understood how to do it in the way that you would receive it too.
Yeah.
All right. So podcast is called Lift. And because obviously if you're listening to this, hopefully you know that. We believe leadership is ultimately measured by the lives we elevate and impact. So when people think about Holly Holt years from now, what do you hope they'll say your life lifted? Or who do you hope?
Yeah, I hope they would say that I loved and lived well. When it comes to my career, I hope people will say she was careful to lift as she rose and that she was a good friend and colleague who prioritized relationships and hard work. And then more importantly, obviously, when it comes to my family and my friends, I hope that they will say that I loved well, that I was a great mom who did her best raising the boys, and just that I cared about people. I hope that's what people remember about me, that I cared about people.
Well, I think you've already nailed that, all of it. And I love lifting people as you rise. I mean, I just don't forget where you came from.
Right.
I mean, people forget that, and I'm like, I think that's the beautiful part of life is like you get the opportunity to go lift others,
right?
While you rise, and I absolutely love that you said that. All right, this is a lightning round. I didn't give you some of these questions. It's really fast. Do you prefer late nights or early mornings?
Late nights.
What do you like to do late at night? Do you read?
Read.
Yeah, I figured. What's your favorite? What's your favorite book? Right now.
Oh my gosh. Well, the book I'm reading right now is absolutely wonderful. I'm listening to this one. It's Calamity Club. My favorite book? Gosh, that's such a hard question. I don't even know.
No. Calamity Club is what you're reading right now?
It's by Catherine Stockton. She wrote The Help.
Okay. Oh.
I'm listening. Okay. The Help was a great book.
Yeah.
I'm listening to this one, and the characters are great.
All right, so I know that you are a sports fanatic, like you love sports,
right?
And we're coming up on football season.
Yes.
What is your favorite tailgate food?
Sausage balls.
Oh.
Angie makes great sausage balls.
Angie does make great sausage balls. Mine are always dry. All right. And then last but not least, ask everybody on that podcast, favorite karaoke song. You and I are going to sing karaoke. What is your favorite?
Islands in the Stream.
Oh, nobody shared that one. That's a really good one.
Yeah, well, it's good for
Islands
a duet.
in the Stream. I'll keep that in mind.
There you go.
Because I like to think I'm really good at it when I'm up there, and it's terrible when somebody videos
Well, I think it's probably
in my head. I'm like, oh, this is going to be great.
I think that really shows who I am because I don't want to stand up there by myself. So that is a duet.
And usually it's with somebody that's really loud, like myself, that then overpowers that. So you're like, go forth.
Yeah.
Holly, thank you for being on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.
You're all around incredible human being. I know you know that, but I hope you know that. And I just, you really, I mean, not only do you inspire me, but you've always been a mentor to me.
Thank you.
Thank you for leading. And I'm going to not get emotional today. I'm trying really hard. First, when I sent you the questions, I was like, I'm going to need some Kleenex. Because I'm just already starting to get emotional. I was like, I'm going to need to provide us some Kleenex in the middle. All right, everybody. If this podcast resonated with you, I hope you will share it with somebody in your world that would benefit from it as well. I am the host of the Lift podcast, Sarah Layson. Step up, serve well, friends.